Welcome to Two Luckies,
the podcast,
and our series Dyin
Cryin,
and
Lyin.
This is a series of us talking about Little House on the Prairie and our take on it as adults.
It is very different as an adult.
Very different. And if you sum this all up, they can fall into one of three categories, either dying,
They're crying,
or they're lying.
Lyin.
So sit back, relax, come take an adventure with us as we reminisce on Little House the Prairie, Dyin
Cryin,
and
Lyin.
Lyin. Season 1, School Mom.
Right in the opening, what was that, 8 to 10 seconds?
Yeah,
we
about
had a
Lyin.
Why? Because Miss Beadle is closing up the school and she's coming down to a horse and buggy. This horse is looking very thin, and then there's this post that the horse is tied up to that we both have
I don't remember seeing that there before, but okay.
no recollection of, much like that grave site that was in between the Olsen Mercantile and the school that just showed up and disappeared in that other one about that lady. But here we are, and Nellie comes up and says, Mother says to have tea with us. You know, she's got something special, something new. And Miss Beadle says, oh, I'll try. To which we already know she's not going to try. It is a
Lyin. The action started right away, huh?
Well, the kids are running around. Miss Beadle's trying to leave school. She just closed up. The whole school's worth of children is outside playing and doing whatever. And this boy comes around with a snake, and he's chasing all the girls around with the snake. And Laura, now she's trying to yell. You can't even hear her, Miss Beadle. She's trying to say something to the children. She is not, it didn't look like she was really holding on to the reins. And Laura runs screaming next to the carriage that Miss Beadle's in and spooks the horse, right? But what I want to know is, why would Laura be running away from a snake when she's the kind of girl that catches frogs and stuff? She doesn't seem like an I'm afraid of snakes kind of kid.
That's pretty sketchy, I think.
So, but the thing is that sets it off, and now this horse bolts, and Miss Beadle is lurching in the seat, and she's trying to catch the reins. Miss Beadle has a tragic accident here where she goes flying out of the carriage after this guy from nowhere on a horse comes and grabs the horse that bolted on her cart. She goes flying out and she's writhing on the ground. And then now we're at the little house, and Ma is saying, me? And we got already a Lyin, because Mr. Hanson is saying that the reason they chose Ma is because she was the best, and she's fawning over it. And really, we think she's the only one in Hero Township that has the training to do the job at this point.
Didn't Doc Baker just say that? Actually, you're the only name on the list.
You're the only name on the list. And then that's a Hanson's like, well, but you're the best. It's like, yeah, you're the best we have, maybe. But that's not what he said.
Mrs. Olsen sure has that stick up her butt.
Oh, she really thinks she's all that.
Yeah.
So we have Mrs. Olsen, Mr. Hanson, runs the mill. We have both Olsens. We have Nels and Mrs. Olsen.
Yep, Mr. Hanson and Doc Baker.
And
That's their school board.
Are all asking Ma and saying, like, we know you have still all this other stuff that you do, like, raising your children and taking care of the old place. Yeah. They're doing all this cooking.
So she does
farming and everything else, and they're acting like they're giving her such a great opportunity because she's going to get to do all of that and teach the children in school.
She goes from saying, I'd really like to have time to think about it, maybe talk it over. Oh, yeah. And then here comes Mrs. Olsen. I need assurances. If the offer was made that you have 2 children of your own, you wouldn't give special treatment.
Right, there's no favoritism going to
That's
be
the
happening.
first thing that crab would be doing if she was teaching, would be favoring those 2. So it's like, it must have pissed her off enough that she whips right around. You know what? I've made up my mind. I'll do it.
Because she was just asking for more time, and then she pretty much took the position out of spite, which, does it hurt her or like...
Let's find out.
She still has to do all this stuff, and then they're thanking Charles. All of these people are thanking Charles.
Yeah,
and he's like, yeah, it's great. Why? Because his life changes not one bit. She's still going to have to do all the stuff she's doing and do this too. We get confirmation that Ma took this job potentially out of spite because now she's over here, she's awake, her hair is lacquered in that dew they've been doing for the last few things when she's in bed.
What'd she say?
And
Mrs. Olson said no, I'd say yes.
And
she makes me so angry.
I gave my word, and Charles was saying, well, you can change your mind. And she said, because of my temper and all of this other stuff. So we were actually correct that Ma has potentially taken this out of spite. She's not even sure. And, it's like the kids in town needed you. And instead of that,
If only I could be so sure that I'm doing it because the children really need me. Who else is going to do it? They just said they have nobody else. That means your own kids would be home too. So get over yourself.
Well, no, but not only that, all the kids need you. They just told you the whole town's kids need you because you are the most qualified one around.
Go Chaz.
This has been a time for the smirk. He was smirking when they offered her the position, acting like they were doing her a favor because of the windfall of money they were going to be getting while she's doing all this extra work. And then he gives the smirk that he gave her a pep talk and thinks that he convinced her now, that he's soothed her fears, and she's going to go to bed. And she burrows down in the pillow, pulls up the covers, closes her eyes, and immediately opens them again. She has not been soothed.
Those Olsons suck.
Oh, but please tell me why the entire school, with the exception of the Ingalls family, is already in the school building on her first day of teaching, right? There's some older student, looks like he's like one of the
He's a late
18s,
very
one of the
late
ones that are
teenager.
getting ready to be graduating soon.
And-
but he seems like he's a new thing. Nellie's holding court, telling what Mrs. Olson, the nasty things Mrs. Olson was saying in the background about how Ma was not qualified, and they're just going to wait and see. And then Ma shows up. Shouldn't they have been there earlier than this?
Well, I was going to comment about that. They probably weren't there earlier. Look at the look on Mary's face. She couldn't power walk there. She's got Ma with her. She had to slow it down.
She is.
I don't know if they
power walk
calculated that
train.
into the time or not. Very interesting turn of events.
So Ma gets a very chilly reaction after Nellie and Willie were saying what their mother had told them about how things have changed since the last time she taught. That Mrs. Ingalls is not a real teacher.
Very icy.
It was very icy. So what she did as an icebreaker was the kid that was running around that scared everybody with the snake and had Laura screaming by that made Miss Beadle fall out of the carriage in the first place. All of a sudden now we had a little bragging because he said that he could hit a ball further than anybody, to which she says, let's go outside. He demonstrates somehow. He swings it. We see no ball. There's a tight, close shot to him. He just swings this big piece of wood that's all the same width all the way up and down. And they're like, wow, that was great. You see no ball flying or anything. Then he gives it to Ma, and they're all standing there, and Laura and Mary are looking up at her with their fingers crossed like, oh, please let her be able to do this. Don't embarrass us. And she swings it, and you actually see the ball go quite far, further than anybody else, because this kid, when he was bragging, said that he could hit it further than most men even. Well, she hit it further than him, and for some reason that one hit had her out of breath, like she had actually run the bases when her feet never really moved after that point, and a lot of other people were breathing heavily for some reason, and now they're ready to go back inside.
To school. We are back with maybe 10 seconds, and we already have a Lyin.
We don't need to tell your father about this. Well, really, I call this planned future lying, because when Pa says, how did it go? What happened? This will be left off the menu because they have been told, nope, put a lid on that one. You can't tell Pa that I can hit a ball probably better than he can, right?
For somebody who claims to be a teacher, she's not very observant.
Okay, so when there was another episode where Charles completely missed her body language, she just missed an entire room's worth of children's body language. Nellie was, I mean, like, rusty. This was a level of rust that, like, maybe her eyes are closed shut with it because, like, my God.
She's having the children of the room read passages. So Nellie reads hers, and right away she's got to brag and try and kiss Tushy. And
she's trying to, she's trying to get rewarded.
She calls on this big kid, the one that was really old, Abel McKay. That's his name. Okay, and now all the kids turn around and they start laughing, and she seems to not pick up on the fact that something's wrong here. Even Laura tried to say Mom, and she goes, shush.
Right, so she shushed her. She's trying to tell her something. She's
trying to tell her, he can't read.
I mean, but this was like, so Abel is not able to read is what we're getting. We have not officially heard the word, but this is a level of like, this went on for a considerable amount of time. I mean, it was like endless. This kid standing there. She keeps continually asking him to read, and all of the kids are tittering and laughing and he and ho-ho-hoing. And she did not, I mean, my gosh, like, where was her brain? So Abel McKay has now stormed out because she kept asking him to read as all of these kids are laughing at him. And then we have the Captain Obvious moment of Laura saying, he can't read.
And Mary not even a single word.
Not even a word. I mean, but we already knew that before all of this. Like, we were watching this. We were watching the same thing she was watching, but apparently we were paying attention to different things.
We pan over and Ma's visiting with Miss Beadle, which I have to tell you, at first glance, I thought that it was Miss Beadle over at the Olsons because she's sitting in like
furniture is
pimp
fancy.
Furniture. It's like really decked out. And then we see it's Ma she's talking to. But, they're sitting there and it's like, wow, this is something. But she's already telling her, I already lost one of your pupils.
Okay, but we found out that from the children, we found out from Laura and Mary that Abel had run away from Miss Beadle also. So this is not necessarily Ma's fault, but Ma, from some reason, assumed that when Abel left the classroom, that he had been, what did she call him?
She called him backwards.
So she thought that he had some kind of mental impairment that was causing this issue. But really it's because in farming communities, and her children had the same thing, access to school was not always available, or you were too far away or whatever, so he came in frequently. And then when he finally was able to start coming to school, he was seeing Miss Beadle is relaying that he was seeing that younger children age 6 and 7 were already reading or learning how to read, and he had yet to learn. But Miss Beadle thought he was backwards also, we were informed. And now, she's telling us how he's bright as anybody else there. And then Ma says, and the children left. What did you think they were laughing
What
for?
kills me is it seems like she's scolding Miss Beadle for why can't this kid read then?
While she's also apologizing for losing the student that Miss Beadle also lost. Like, it's a very convoluted kind of like...
Very interesting.
I feel like they were just reaching for a story here at this point.
She should have guessed.
Well, I want to know one quick thing though. When Mary and Laura in the what was it? School Country Girls?
Yeah.
When Mary and Laura came in, Mary could read, Laura could not. Miss Beadle did like round the clock tutoring of this child who was not much older than the other kids that were just learning how to read, maybe by a year or two.
Why didn't she work with this kid?
I mean, really, like this kid is like 18 or close to it, and instead of like she stopped calling on him and she had him sit there. It's a very different method than what she did with Laura, and I'm kind of curious as to why.
And I just want to point out that earlier Chaz is still wearing the same shirt.
Yes, the same shirt.
One question with all this, now that Ma got home and here's Carrie out of the high chair, running up to her with the dog. She says, oh, don't you look fine? The Nelsons took good care of you.
So she was in daycare?
Who were the Nelsons?
Oh, okay, yes, okay. The Nelsons, I've never heard of them. And where was Pa all day?
I think we're about to see the smirk, so hold on.
So I actually have a little yay,
Yay,
Chaz,
Chaz.
because there was a very tense coming home from school. Ma answers Pa about how she did
Lost a
poorly or she
pupil.
failed. She lost a pupil today, and the girls are protesting that no, she did very well. And Laura says, well, it doesn't matter anyway because that's just, and this is a quote, that's just dumb Abel. And Ma gets very upset. She says anybody who calls him that again is going to get their mouth washed out with soap. There's
The
a very
strongest I can
the
find.
strongest she can find, and she makes her own. So like, watch out. And then she's getting all stressed, and she's getting ready to go inside, and she's like, I have to get supper ready, and supper is already on. So go, Chaz. She came home, and he already started. He said the only thing that was left to do was to set the table. So he did. He got supper already got going.
Let's
which
just-
go, Chaz.
Let's just make sure it's not rattlesnake.
Rattlesnake super stew.
Have to point out this time around remember when Ma said, let's not tell your father about this?
Right, when she hit the ball out of the park.
Well, there they are sitting by the stream, and she's telling them all about her
Well,
day.
she's sitting by the stream with Charles. The girls went in to set the table, and she's relaying how she had such a terrible, horrible day, and she failed and everything. She's holding onto Carrie's doll, and he says,
well, hey, day wasn't all that bad. I mean, you hit a home run.
and she said, they told you? And he said, of course they did.
Good
You
for
hit
the
it
kids.
right over the trees.
They prevented a
Lyin.
lion.
Because when Dad asked about how the day was, they told the truth. Go, girls. Ma is standing outside the mercantile. She's getting ready to come in with her red shawl on. And Mrs. Olson is tending to the fabric and she's putting things away. Ma comes in to sell her eggs and we get a lion. Because all of a sudden these eggs that she's been buying, Mrs. Olson, for how long now, they just are so nice that they're worth 4 cents more a dozen. And Ma is looking at her like she grew another head off the middle of her back. Mrs. Olson right away with the lion. She just keeps going with it because now she's saying that, you're such a great teacher. They have such nice things to say about you. And Nellie was just saying this morning that she wanted to be the monitor, which we already know. The reason why this was even suggested.
It's a snow job.
No, it's a snow job because she wants to be able to have Nellie relay what everybody's doing on their test papers because that's what the monitor would be doing, would be collecting all the test papers and stuff like that. And then Ma comes back with something we're not entirely sure if it's a lion, but it's a potential one because she says that this monitor job is only for the children who do poorly in school to get them more involved. So
and
they're
did
just
you
going back and
notice?
forth.
Did you notice too that she waited till after she got paid by her to tell her that?
Yeah, she waited until that cash on the barrelhead was in her hands before she relayed this information about, the only children that get to do that are the ones that are disinterested or do poorly in school.
Yeah, go Ma.
Mrs. Olson realizes she paid that extra 4 cents a dozen for nothing. The eggs are still laying out there on the countertop, and she is dismayed because Ma threw it back on her, saying, "Well, do Nellie and Willie dislike school?" And she, no, Mrs. Olson says. So Ma deflected like she had a shield on it. She was putting the sun in her eyes over there.
Go Ma.
Go, Ma.
Ma goes across the street to the mill where Pa is standing there sawing his usual siding.
Yeah, she sent the girls ahead back home, and she's saying that she's going to have to go out to Abel's house because Charles was saying that, I have 30, 40 more minutes and then we could ride home together. And she's like, no, I need to go. She takes the wagon and he is going to pick up Carrie. So they made all their arrangements. We get up to the farm where Abel is at. His dad is there. He's outside sawing a log of wood. And we have the most awkward waving at each other sequence I've ever seen pieced together. They look like they were waving at who knows what, someplace else, and that they weren't even on the set at the same time together. Like, he does this awkward wave, then they go cut to her, and she's still sitting in the wagon, and she didn't wave until she stood up, and you already know he was looking by that point. It was
This
awkward.
ought to be good.
This episode is dragging. Ma
Dull.
is dragging. I mean, she is kind of usually very sharp and she's very like observant and stuff like that. And in this one, for some reason, she can't seem to get out of her own way. She goes over there. The father of Abel is standing in a pit with this big thing in the middle and this horse that's going around, must be grinding up something. And this horse is going around, and she keeps standing in the way of the horse and then stepping back, and standing in the way of the horse then stepping back.
The guy's
and then finally she stops the horse, but this is going on and on and on.
The guy's a brick maker.
Right, he's a brick maker, but at the same time he's saying, you know, finest brick ever. I found this clay and I staked the claim, and, you know, this is the best thing I could have done for this. I have savvy and all this other stuff. Never needed to read and write. She's trying to convince him that it's a winning combination to have savvy and be able to read and write, and she's trying to convince him to send Abel back to school. And now he's saying that after he talked up this whole property and how great and rich and lucky it was, now all of a sudden
he needs Abel there, or they're gonna go hungry over.
They're gonna
winter.
go hungry. And make up your mind. And like then she stops the horse, and he didn't even complain about it. And this is very much reminding me of the episode where Charles went and made the shoe for the girl who had the one leg that was shorter than the other, because they are butting into other people's families again. So I call this Prairie.
So long story short, the father tells Ma over there that after she asks him, I need you to talk to Abel. And he says, no, you talk to him. If you can convince him to come back to school, that's all well and good. But if he don't want to, then I'll thank you to leave him alone. So she goes over to talk to him, and right away he's saying, nope, I'm too big, I'm too old. And she's kind of placating the whole thing when he's showing her these little clay things that he made, a bird and,
Yeah,
and
because
a
his
stick
father
figure.
does things with clay.
Right,
He makes
or something
bricks.
else. See, I know you can learn. So it looks like she might have convinced him to come back. We're going to call out our very next
Lyin, because Ma's up there. She took the kids on a field trip from the school. They're in some place yet again way in the woods. She calls them all, sit down, and she says to them, you know, long story short again, because this is dragging on and on and on, we're going to teach Abel, and we're all, you know, he's never done anything bad to any of you, and we're going to help him learn, and he's agreed to come in the afternoon. And then she looks outside, and all the kids are holding big letters on a big sheet of paper each, and she pretends that school was already in session when he walked in, and they're going to be doing some review, which we already know was a planned future
Lyin. Here we go again
Back
with the
7 seconds.
Lyin.
Because Ma is saying we're going back to the fundamentals, to the alphabet, because all of you are making too many mistakes. Really? No. We already
you're doing
know
that
they
all to
conspired
try
do
and
this.
teach this kid who's probably 18, 19 years old, but nice try.
Right. But I mean, at least she's trying to do something. But like, why can't we just be forthright with this? She comes up with a game. It's a very slow thing. We see where it's going, but they are dragging this out.
Dragging it out.
But I mean, at least he's starting to learn. So go Abel. He's sounding out words. And now Charles is running out of the... We have it paused. And he's running out of Hanson's Build and Supply Lumber and Hardware. And I think both of his feet are off the ground. So what's going to happen now? Maybe they'll pick this up a little bit.
Pep in the step.
Pep in the step. Much less exciting than I was hoping for. Ma, while she's shaking her head no, says what a wonderful day they had. That's what I want to hear as Charles jumps in the wagon with his dream team of jingling and the children in the back, and they're all going home together. And now we're back in school again, and she's got Frog. Exactly. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm looking forward to some other episodes. This one is slow. S-L-O-W.
Well, that was interesting.
They tried for something. Mrs. Olsen came in while they were in the middle of this whole idea to, you know, teach Abel how to read, with the whole class participating. And Mrs. Olsen said, it's really happening. You'd stop teaching. And you know, when I was a kid, I kind of was on Ma's side, but watching it as an adult, Ma actually stopped the learning of all of the other children, the progression of their education to
Get this one
cater
kid to
everything
read.
towards one person.
And now because of all of that, now she just stormed out and just quit her job.
Well,
so.
she quit her job after she wrote down compassion and understanding, because it looked like an I instead of a U, and asked the children, she had a fit of temper in front of everybody. And it's kind of an interesting side to Ma. We don't usually see her so... I don't know. Like usually with Mrs. Olsen, this is where we see this kind of activity from her.
Yeah,
but she's quit her job and she dismissed the children and said there's no more school. And I will say that there is kind of a point. Every kid in town.
But Mrs. Olsen did call the kid dumb Abel.
Yes, and that no,
that just goes
she was
to
saying
show
he wasn't
that she's
capable of learning. So I mean, I will, but in a way, she has a point. Everybody not learning the way that they were learning. Why wasn't she tutoring him on the side like Miss Beadle did with her own child? It's not like she didn't have the example of it, but we're
Let's
back
see where
at the
it
farm,
goes.
and they had all the strings, and they weren't pulling on any of my heartstrings. I'll tell you that. This episode is a slow. I'm calling this Lyin, because Ma just said that the reason why she didn't pick Mrs. Olsen up by the seat of her pants and kick her out for this whole hullabaloo that she just started, after this whole convoluted story with Mr. Hansen, they really are dragged, like, my gosh. But the reason why she was unable to be honest with her feelings was because she's a lady and this other person is also a lady.
Please, I think, you know what, if she was really going to stand up and say, I had that thought too, you should have demonstrated right there.
No, but she did this whole passive-aggressive thing about showing all these words and do the children understand it? And she, and then she huffed out and she left all the kids in a lurch for
see
this.
what happens.
Like, oh my gosh, Doc Baker's over here looking quizzical about what? I have no idea. 10 seconds back to another Lyin, courtesy of Mrs. Olsen, because she's now all of a sudden that Ma gave some kind of metaphor so they could understand how her plans were dashed and destroyed because of what Mrs. Olsen did. And now Mrs. Olsen is saying, it wasn't as serious as that. Mrs. Olsen is forcefully taken by Nels by the arm back to the carriage while Mr. Hansen and Doc Baker give guarantees, which how they're going to guarantee anything, we already know that they're lying because you can't guarantee that Mrs. Olsen's going to do anything that you say, and they're bringing her back over to the carriage forcefully, and now Ma has her arms crossed, and she may or may not come back. But I will say maybe she really did do this in spite of Mrs. Olsen because she really doesn't seem to be thinking about the kids at all. Ma's over here throwing the baby out with the bathwater because she lost one student. The whole rest of this place is packed.
She refuses to teach anybody else.
They only have enough room for maybe 2 more kids in this school. It is packed to the gills, but all of the other kids have to stop learning because she found herself in the unique position of losing this student when Miss Beadle already did this thing. 7 seconds back to another Lyin. Charles is reading a book in bed about how to make paint. He asked if the light's bothering Ma. No, not a bit. And guess what? She says, are you going to paint tomorrow? And he says, no. Well, do you have to learn how to paint right now? Well, the light is bothering you. Oh my goodness gracious. Please just be honest. And I'm waiting for the next episode because this one, the writers must have been asleep on vacation, or maybe they were the ones dying because my gosh, this episode is just wow.
Let's point out he is eating a bowl of popcorn in bed and dropping the crumbs between the sheets.
They show them doing this frequently. Usually it's the 2 of them eating popcorn in bed, and it looks like it's unbuttered at that. And then here she is, which it would have been back then probably. But like, I mean, my gosh, oof. You're going to tell me that they ride home together at the end of the day now because he's working at the mill and she's working at the school, and they just get to, as he's rolling over in bed and say they just finished with the, I guess it's just for the best that, this is Ma's like favorite line now. It's for the best that it didn't go that way because, it's better off that I just gave up on this whole plan and all the kids. And now Charles is baiting her with a story about how Mrs. Olson is now going to be teaching school tomorrow because Christy, one of the kids, had told Charles about it. And now Ma leaps out of bed, hair lacquered into that shape, and we're looking down at him, and my goodness. Charles is in full smirk because he convinced her, to get all incensed because now Laura and Mary are going to stay home from school, and they both agree with it because whatever Mrs. Olson has to teach, they don't need to learn. And now he's smirking as he's laying there, and she asks if there's any popcorn, and she is shoving it into her face.
The only thing that would have made that any funnier is if he broke out the fiddle.
I mean, really, I was actually thinking to myself, I'm missing the fiddle, I'm missing the pipe, and I'm missing the coffee in this one. We have seen him have none of those things in this episode, but they are like, this horse has been dead for at least 35 minutes, and they are still beating it.
We have our very next Lyin.
Ma goes into the mercantile to sell the eggs after Charles says those eggs are for selling, not throwing. And she encounters Nell at Nell's and acts like she has no idea where Mrs. Olson is, where we already know she does know. And we find out that for all the eggs that she's bringing, she is getting a whopping 56 cents. And Nell's has been informed that the egg price had changed when Mrs. Olson realized that she was a teacher, and now that she's not the teacher, who knows if the price went up, down, in between. But now we are looking at Mrs. Olson, who is ringing a bell to a very empty schoolyard. That was painful.
Yes.
Ma is coming back from doing the eggs after doing this whole looking at Mrs. Olson, because we find out that the reason why none of the kids showed up was because Willie and Nellie told all the kids that their mother was teaching, and no one wanted any part of that, including the Ingalls. She's coming back over. She meets up with Abel, who made letters out of the clay that he was doing. He was giving it to her so she could use it to teach the other children. But then we find out, of course, that she had thrown the baby out with the bathwater. So she was unable to use the special gift that he gave for her to use with the other children. And she's sitting there, and I'm going to call this an indirect Lyin, because for their while there, they were the two most stubborn people in the whole town. And then all of a sudden he says, well, if I go back, because he was saying, I won't go back. And if I go back,
well, I
will
won't
you
go back either?
And she says, yes, I will. To which I say, why couldn't she just say it out loud? Nope, we had to get there through way of Lyin. Abel makes rapid improvement. Ma uses the smallest piece of chalk in the history of history to write the word history. And then Charles is over there talking to her next to the bubbling brook. Time went by, and now she's almost up to her last day, and she'll miss it always, but only just a little.
Ma's last day of school. Shows up at the school. There's a banner on the front of the building welcoming back Miss Beadle.
Welcome, Miss Beadle.
So she walks in right in the middle of a teaching lesson. So, congratulations on being late again.
The second time, her kids are late, she's late. They look like they're well into the school day at this point.
So she goes up. She has some words, welcomes Miss Beadle back, and she turns around and says, Abel wants to read you something. He stands up in the back of the room and reads this heartfelt note, to which Ma finally shows a crying. And she has no words for this crying. Instead of saying anything to the class, a thank you or whatnot, she runs over to Abel and gigs at him like a little school kid and runs out the door.
She says she doesn't say goodbye to anybody. So she not only does she interrupt school, right? She's late. interrupt school. They stand there, they do this whole thing to read her this thing, and her response is to cry and just leave the building. And that's how we end the whole episode. They pull back, pan back, and that's the end of it. So a very slow episode. This would have been a skipperoonie for me when we were
all
kids.
day.
And as an adult, I agree with my younger self. This would have been a skipperoonie for right now too. But we brought it to you anyway, and we got a lion. We got a whole bunch of lion. We got crying.
We got a crying.
And everyone stayed alive, thankfully, this time. But
fortunately for Miss Beadle, she didn't fall on the dying category.
yeah, she fell on the mending. She had to mend for a while for the episode.
So be sure to join us next time for the episode The Raccoon.
The raccoon.
And that concludes this episode of Two Luckies,
the podcast.
and our series Dyin
Cryin.
and Lyin.
We released these in 3s, so if you enjoyed it, there's more. Go check it out.
Go check them out. We'll see you next time.
We're out.
See ya.
Two Luckies, the podcast.
Two Luckies podcast.
Two Luckies,
The podcast.